So the first point of call is that every Ghanaian has a right of free expression. And every Ghanaian who is speaking about everything is exercising that right until that right is abused. That is the way I want to look at things. In this particular case, it seems to me that the right of free expression is being so blatantly abused in order to serve partisan political interest. Because 3 weeks ago, I used the same word and it was completely misunderstood. But look, we are coming to the point where things must be called their right names. If something is reckless, we must say that it is reckless. If something is foolish, we have to be able to say that it is foolish. If something makes no sense at all, we have to be able to say that, look, it doesn't make sense. So we have come to the point where our nation is in crisis.
Whenever I say my PENDREAM TV there, I see them
by the security agencies. All what they have to do is to inform the public about whether or not the two flights arrived in the country. And if it did, is it still in the country or not? Also, they should be able to tell us what the flight came with and what it left with. These are very simple questions that does not need any invitation. They need to provide the details, and if it requires more information, then we can have a conversation. So I guess those were the details that Felix Kwachofosu then provided to him. He says Felix is not credible enough to provide that information. He needs the investigative agencies to be the one who does that. Comrade Pratt.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out where to start with. And it seems to me that it is important to emphasize the point that there's nothing, absolutely nothing, which legally or legitimately invalidates the results of the last elections. No matter what conjecture we come up with, the fact is that President John Dramani Mahama was legally and legitimately elected President of the Republic of Ghana. The fact is that he won with a margin which is unprecedented in the Fourth Republic. So this excuse of our members did not turn up, one region, that is on, is all completely irrelevant. The mandate of the people has been clearly, legitimately, and legally established. No questions about that. That's number one. Now, number two is just to emphasize the point that members of parliament have responsibilities which far outweigh the responsibility of ordinary citizens like me. By virtue of the fact that they serve as our representatives, they cannot pretend to be acting as individuals who can go out on a limb. And that whatever they do must be seen to be in the collective interest of the people they represent. That's a responsibility that members of parliament must carry. Otherwise, they lose the value of representation. So members of parliament cannot get up and do things on a whim and so on. At every time when they act, they must act in the interest of the collective. And this is a very important point to make. Now, thirdly, I'd like to point out to my brother and very dear friend, Sabu, that it seems to me that he doesn't know what is being discussed. and it's clear. At no time has there been a suggestion that these planes crash landed in Ghana or that they landed as emergency flights. No time. Indeed, the evidence now available in the public is that they sought permission to land, prior permission to land. So there was no emergency. You understand? Now, having listened to my brother very closely and so on, his whole submission is premised on the fact that these planes landed in an emergency situation.
It's based on what?
He didn't say that. Please.
That's why I kept saying technical.
Please read it for him.
Yes.
Read the statement for him. He actually went to the extent of quoting the references of the permission, prior permission granted to the aircrafts. So there was no emergency situation. Okay. Now, it is also important to point out that these aircraft did not land here for repairs. They didn't land here for repairs. And they did not originate, the flight did not originate from Spain. One of the flights actually originated from Rwanda. Is it Rwanda?
Rwanda.
Yes.
Rwanda.
From Luanda in Angola. And the reason why the flight came here was to meet a certification requirement. The EU has a rule which says that if planes must land in the European Union countries, they need to be certified. Now, in Angola, they do not have the capacity for that certification. And that is why the aircraft flew to Accra in order to obtain the certification which enables it to land in the EU country. So let's get the facts clear. Okay. Now, the other thing which is important for me is that having watched the video which was released by the presidency through Felix Kwesi, you could see from the video that all the standard requirements were met. All the standard requirements were met. In fact, it seems to me watching the video that inspection is even filmed. That filming that was released to the public could not have been done as an afterthought because by that time the planes had left. So it is reasonable to assume that it is part of the standard procedure. And indeed these days, if you travel abroad, you see that at the security checkpoints, if you want to check for narcotics and so on, there's a small swipe. They use to touch your bag and so on. And if there's any narcotic in it, it will show. I saw them use it on the aircrafts and the materials in the aircrafts. And I'm sure you all saw them. You understand? These aircrafts were so vigorously inspected. So vigorously inspected on camera. So all this needless speculation, I'm wondering where it's coming from. You have the facts and you say, no, I'm going to speculate. What's wrong with you, my brother? When the facts are not available, you can speculate. But when the facts are there, staring in your face, you don't speculate. You analyze the facts. And so far, I don't see any analysis of facts, but empty speculation. Just intended to cast doubt. You understand? Oh, yeah. Ntim Fordjour could be right because 20 years ago, an ambulance was caught somewhere in Sogakope carrying marijuana. What? Is that a level of analysis? So in that case, every ambulance you see anywhere in the world or anywhere in the country must be carrying drugs. What kind of assumption is that? Clearly, my goodness, what kind of assumption is that? I don't know where it's coming from. To be quite honest with you, I don't know where it is coming from. Now, you see, I listened to Ntim Fordjour. I've listened to him, I've read him over the period. And to be honest, I really pity him. Okay. Because at this press conference, he told us that he was speaking on behalf of the minority in parliament. He was acting in the press conference, according to his own claims, as a spokesperson of the minority in parliament. Then sometime later, that same person now is not speaking for the minority again, but is speaking for a committee of parliament. So he doesn't even know who he's speaking for. Is he speaking for the minority or is speaking for a committee of parliament? You cannot interchange the two positions. You are either speaking for a committee in parliament, which includes all the political parties represented in parliament, or you are speaking for the minority in parliament, which is the minority. Finish. You can't conflict the two. So he must be clear in his mind whether he's speaking as a minority spokesperson or he's speaking for parliament. Now that lack of clarity itself raises many important questions. Now we do know that his claim that he was speaking for a parliamentary committee is at least doubtful. Okay? Because the chairperson of the committee has said he did not speak for us. He did not have our mandate, raising substantial doubts about that claim. Now, there's something else which is important. If you listen closely to his press conference, it was very confusing. At a certain point, he was saying that, look, this is the information that we have had, and that we would like the matter to be investigated. That's one breath. At another point, he actually emphatically makes the claim that Ghana has become a hub for money laundering and drug trafficking. Yes, suddenly become a hub. How do you reconcile these two positions? Is it a case that he has heard rumors and verified rumors that he wants the state security agencies to investigate? Or that now he has evidence to show that within this short period of 3 to 4 months, Ghana has become a hub for money laundering and drug trafficking? There needs to be some reconciliation, because it doesn't make sense. That there's a gap which needs to be filled. And then, Senna, there is something which is called logical acrobatics. Okay? This morning, this man, Honorable Ntim Fordjour, on his X page, is claiming that international agencies appear to vindicate his stand. So, what is the evidence? And Senna, if anybody is in doubt, please read it for them to understand. I mean, when they are in doubt, I don't think they are in doubt yet. When they get into doubt, read it for them. There's a Ghanaian working for an international agency, and he says that the allegations made by him, Ntim Fordjour, are serious allegations which require or need to be investigated in order to establish the fact. How is this a vindication? Tell me how this is a vindication. How is this a vindication? And this is used as a vindication. It says international agencies are confirming what I've said. I mean, what is this? What is this acrobatics? What is this gymnastics? What is it intended to achieve? You see, it doesn't end there. If you listen to public commentary on the matter, you get the impression that President John Dramani Mahama has ordered the arrest of Ntim Fordjour because of what he has said. No such order has been given. Read President Mahama's tweet very carefully. He says, look, these are serious allegations. We are concerned about these serious allegations. We want to establish the full facts so that we can deal with the matter on an empirical basis. And therefore, I'm asking the security agencies to collaborate. The essential word is collaborate with Ntim Fordjour in order to establish the facts. So indeed, he's not in the category of an arrested person. He is a collaborator. He's part of the investigators. You understand what I'm saying? He is not to be arrested to prove. He says, come and help us, work with us to unravel the facts. He's not being arrested. I hope you get the difference. He says, collaborate. So he's on the same pedestal as the security services in the effort to establish the facts. Okay? The man who in his first press conference is calling for investigations to establish the facts now turns around and says, there's no need for investigations. You raise his feet. He says, there's no need for investigations. But he called for the investigations in the first place. So what is this rigmarole? I don't understand it. Why these twists and turns and so on? And you see, my brother, look, I want to believe that every Ghanaian engaged in public commentary, public discussion, is doing so out of a need to contribute to developing a better understanding of our circumstances. Every, including my brother Sabo, including Ntim Fordjour, and so on. And I want to hold this belief until I am proven wrong. You understand? Because if you don't do that, ab initio will interfere with people's rights to express themselves and so on. So the first point of call is that every Ghanaian has a right of free expression. And every Ghanaian who is speaking about everything is exercising that right until that right is abused. That is the way I want to look at things. In this particular case, it seems to me that the right of free expression is being so blatantly abused in order to serve partisan political interest. Partisan political interest which stands in conflict with national interest. And I am very deeply worried about that. Look, all of us, especially members of parliament, must know that there are consequences for countries when they are classified as narco countries, as countries engaged in drug trafficking and money laundering. There are severe sanctions and so on. So if you go out there without a shred of evidence to go and make such allegations, what we are actually trying to do is that we are calling for the imposition of sanctions on the country. That's what you're doing. You're saying that our struggle as a people to sanitize the national economy and so on should be further jeopardized by the imposition of sanctions. Mind you, as we speak here, mind you, cocoa supposed to be the main driver of the Ghanaian economy. It's in deep, deep crisis. And sometimes when I sit back, I am amazed, at the courage of somebody like Dr. Randy Abbey. He must be a very courageous person.
I said that yesterday.
No, Randy must have some courage.
Yes.
I mean, to decide at this stage to go and carry the burden of cocoa board,
Yeah.
you need a lot of courage to do that. First of all, production has declined by about 60%.
Yeah.
Okay? Not just that. This is the second year in which we cannot even borrow money
Money. Yeah.
to buy cocoa from the farmers. This is the industry in which local buying companies have collapsed. Licensed buying companies now are predominantly foreign owned and so on.
Mm.
This is the crisis that Randy has gone and put on his head, or they have put on Randy's head.
Oh, yes.
53 billion is how much is owed by cocoa board and so on. Now, in the midst of this Herculean problem, and this is not all, I mean, I've always repeated this figure of us needing 120% of total national revenue in order to be able to finance three line items: debt servicing, debt repayment, and public sector emoluments. So, in the face of this humongous crisis that has been bequeathed to us as a people, and especially to the Mahama administration, it is a height of recklessness for anybody to peddle rumor which may lead to the exacerbation of the national problem, especially when that is done in anticipation of the fact that it will erode public confidence in the governing party and lead to a victory for the defeated party. It becomes the height of recklessness, absolute recklessness. That is what it becomes. And I'm very deeply worried by this situation. Now, in front of me is this newspaper, the publisher. Okay? And the headline says, Kwesi Ofosu lied. No agency has invited me, Ntim Fordjour. This is the lie he's complaining about. Agency has invited you, agency has not invited you. What is the damage that, suppose that if we agree that Patrick Kwesi lied, he lied, yes, he lied. This lie, what damage does it do to Ghana? Compared to the lie that in a very short period, suddenly, all of a sudden, whatever, Ghana has become a narco state. Which of them is damaging? I mean, look, let's stop this. Let's stop this. I was going to use a certain word, but I have advised myself. Because 3 weeks ago, I used the same word and it was completely misunderstood. But look, we are coming to the point where things must be called their right names. If something is reckless, we must say that it is reckless. If something is foolish, we have to be able to say that it is foolish. If something makes no sense at all, we have to be able to say that, look, it doesn't make sense. So, we have come to the point where our nation is in crisis. And one of the ways of getting out of this crisis is to be candid with ourselves. Of course, let's show ourselves respect. Let's respect each other and so on. But respecting each other does not mean that we should be burying things under the carpet and we should refuse to be candid with ourselves. You see, my brother, and on the line of being candid with ourselves and so on, let me say something very, I want to say something, my brother, I want to say something very seriously. Look, the Mahama administration has been in office for more than 3 months. Listen to me carefully. It has been in office for more than 3 months.
Actually, the third month will be Monday.
Just entered the third month. 7th January.
It will be 3 months on Monday.
7th,
Yeah.
3 months.
What is today's date?
Today is what?
Today is 5th.
5th. We are not even 7th.
Oh,
7th will be 3 months.
I like to be all right.
You are counting the days. Well, it's
So it's in the third month. So it's in the third month. But not
So
more
the
than 3
Mahama
months.
administration is
3 months. 3 months.
third.
Yeah, that's correct.
That is no excuse for keeping anybody in office who has fallen out of line. If you fall out of line the first day, the second day, you must show the exit. This government has a huge opportunity to reset the country. And you can't reset the country with some of the ministers I'm seeing today. My brother, I'm serious. You can't reset this country with some of the ministers I'm seeing today. This government came to power partly as a result to mass opposition to reckless public spending, especially with regards to the National Theatre, the National Cathedral. Listen to me very carefully. So if you appoint a minister who in less than 3 months, I thought it was more than 3 months, but in less than 3 months, looks us in the face and says that we are going to rebuild the national, we are going to build the National Cathedral, and that those who oppose it will face them. Face who? We are going to face those who elected you into power.
Who said that?
I'm surprised that you don't know.
Anyway,
That minister
yes.
must be shown the exit now. He's not fit to be in office. You see, and if the government is able to take such measures, then the viciousness and malicious propaganda of the opposition would not be able to stand. But when government is not able to take a firm stand on these issues and discipline its people and so on, then it provides ground for malicious propaganda and so on. Master, I finished. You are surprised?
No, I haven't heard this.
Hey, who can have courage to say that? Hey.
Well, a few comments, then we'll move on to the next discussion. This Abbas Amogobo in offense says, this drug trafficking allegation by the MPP is a way to dent the image of this NDC government, but they will fail. This Mahama NDC government is focused on resetting the Ghana they destroyed. Hope is coming.
PENDREAM TV. Now, so far so good. Say open online portal e Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV. I see say a lot of people are moving from the traditional media to the social media. And PENDREAM, you are setting the pace because you bring the issues as they are. And the those are the issues. And then Unipa are not ready for just ordinary endorsement. But people want to hear the issues. What are the issues? What are the possible solutions? So for me, I'm endorsing PENDREAM TV. And I'm recommending, say, Obi Biana who feel it's traditional media and why you're bored with it, I'm going to live up to expectation. Your next last stop, PENDREAM TV.